I ran a lot back then. Track, cross country, even in the off-season when nobody was watching. There was something about getting lost in the motion that made sense to me in a way most things didn't. I wasn't breaking records or anything, but I had endurance. I could keep going long after everyone else called it. That's probably why Mrs. Delaney asked me to start running her dog Maxie, hyper little mutt, part border collie or something with too much energy and no off switch. She lived out in this place called Fox Hollow, half forgotten, real quiet, not even marked on most maps unless you zoomed in far enough. It was the kind of place where the trees outnumbered houses 10 to 1, and everything always felt a little too still. $10 a run sounded like easy money. I was already training anyway. Maxie needed the exercise, and I liked running without teammates around. No pressure, no small talk, just me and the road. My parents weren't thrilled. I remember my mom saying something like, "Don't go past the ridge, not near the preserve." They always brought up that old cult that used to be based around there. Bunch of weirdos who vanished or scattered depending on who you asked. A couple crumbling barns, an overgrown cemetery, maybe a burned down church still standing in ruins. That kind of history sticks to a place, but I didn't care. It was just a dog, just a run. I figured if anything ever got weird out there, I could outrun it. That was the thing I kept telling myself. I was fast enough. It was one of those evenings that feels unreal in hindsight, like your brain files it away differently. The kind of light that makes everything look warmer than it is, molten gold spilling through the treetops, but the air had a bite. I'd taken Maxie out a little later than usual, figured we'd do a longer loop since she hadn't been out the day before. We hit Merrow Road without thinking much of it. That stretch always felt like it had its own rules. Trees thicker, older, the kind of quiet that feels padded, like sound doesn't travel the same there. The deeper we went, the more I felt it. That pressure behind the silence. Maxie was trotting along like usual, sniffing, tugging, but then she just froze. Mid-step, like something had switched off inside her. Her ears perked, her tail dropped, and she made this low, tight sound in her throat, not barking, not growling, just unease. I followed where she was looking. Nothing at first, just trees, shadows, brush. But then deeper in, almost between two trunks, a face, or part of one. Just enough to make out a cheekbone, maybe the edge of a jaw, one eye visible. No movement, no sound, not even that subtle shift people do when they're pretending not to look at you. He wasn't pretending, he was looking right at me, not blinking, not hiding, not approaching, just there. And for the first time on that route, I realized how alone we were. Just me, a leash, and a stare I couldn't shake. I didn't stop running. Not really. Slowed down a little maybe. Tried to act normal. I kept telling myself I'd seen people out here before. Hikers, locals, maybe even other runners who used the back roads to avoid traffic. There were still a few scattered houses out this way. Even if most of them looked empty, it was probably nothing. That's what I kept thinking. Probably nothing. But Maxie wasn't buying it. She kept looking over her shoulder, ears pinned back, body tense like a wire. Dogs know things. They don't need logic, they just feel it. I tried to ignore the weight crawling up my spine, but my eyes kept darting back, quick checks, trying not to be obvious about it. And then Maxie stopped again. Hard, dead stop like before. Only this time her leash pulled tight and she didn't move an inch. I turned to look, and he was closer, out from the trees now. Not across the woods anymore, but right there, maybe 10 feet from the road. Just standing, not approaching, not retreating, still, too still. He had this slight tilt to his head, like someone trying to hear a sound just out of range, or like he was sizing something up. Me, I guess. And it hit me in this cold, quiet way. He wanted me to see him. He could have stayed hidden, but he didn't. He stepped out, and he didn't look confused or lost. He didn't look like someone who needed directions or had taken a wrong turn. He looked like someone making a decision. There's this exact moment when everything in your body shifts from maybe it's nothing to you need to run. I felt it before I even turned around. Just this ripple of movement behind me, too sudden, too sharp. It wasn't the kind of motion people make when they're walking toward you, or even jogging. It was that full body 0-second delay kind of movement. Urgent, violent. And when I did look back, he was already in a dead sprint. No build-up, no warning, just coming for me. And in his hand, God, that cleaver. Broad, gleaming, too heavy looking for someone to be holding mid-sprint like that, but there it was. And suddenly everything inside me cracked into panic. I didn't think, I just ran. Hard, harder than I ever had during a meet or practice. The kind of running where your legs don't feel like yours and your lungs are trying to claw their way out of your chest. Maxie struggled beside me, her leash jerking wildly in my grip, her body nearly skimming the ground as she tried to keep up. Part of me thought she was going to trip me, that we were both going down. But the worst part, what I still can't explain, is the silence. I could hear myself, my feet slamming into the pavement, my breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. Maxie's panting, her collar jangling. But behind us, him, nothing. No breath, no grunt, just this awful rhythm of footfalls. Louder, heavier, faster than mine. Like he was keeping pace but not even trying. Like the distance between us didn't matter to him. Like he was going to catch me whether I ran or not. It's hard to explain how long a few seconds can stretch when you think you're about to die. Everything feels slow, surreal. Somewhere in the chaos, my legs aching, lungs tearing open, Maxie wheezing beside me, I caught the glare of headlights. A car, coming up the road behind me. It felt like salvation. I practically jumped into the lane, flailing my arms, shouting without words, trying to make myself look as desperate and real as possible. I must have looked insane. Hell, maybe I was insane in that moment. I just needed that car to stop. Just slam on the brakes, throw open a door, anything. And for a second, I thought it worked. The car slowed. I saw the driver's face briefly, but clearly, a man older. He looked right at me. Our eyes met, and then he hit the gas. No hesitation, no window rolled down. Nothing. Just this moment of eye contact, and then gone. The taillights vanished into the curve ahead, swallowed up by trees. It felt like the ground dropped under me. Like the chase was bad enough, but that was something else entirely. I don't know why he didn't stop. Maybe he thought I was some kind of setup. Maybe he just didn't want to get involved. Maybe he was scared. I can't really blame him. Not completely. But that moment, being seen, clearly seen, and still left behind, stuck with me. It was worse than being chased in some ways. It made everything feel heavier. Like I was truly on my own out there. I don't know how far I ran after the road. Everything blurred. Houses, fences, the pounding of my footsteps mixing with Maxie's. I stopped thinking. I just kept moving. At some point I must have crossed into one of the nearby neighborhoods. The kind where every yard bleeds into the next, and you can't tell where one ends and another begins. I ducked behind a shed in someone's backyard, crouched down hard, and finally let myself fall apart a little. My legs felt hollow. I could barely keep my breath. Maxie was right next to me now, not pulling anymore. Just there, her chest rising and falling, ears back. She didn't make a sound. I didn't know if he was still chasing us. I kept expecting him to barrel around the corner or crash through the fence. I tried to hold my breath, like that might make me disappear. Time didn't move right. It stretched, froze, then snapped forward again. When I finally dared to look, I didn't see him right away, not near me. Not in the yards, but then I spotted him. He was standing at the top of the hill that sloped behind the neighborhood, just watching. His posture was too still. The cleaver dangled from his hand like it didn't weigh a thing. There was no rage in his face now, no wild chase, just that same empty expression. Blank, like none of it had ever been urgent to him. Like it was just something he tried on for the evening. Then headlights from another car swept across the horizon, and without looking back, he turned and walked into the trees. That was it. No panic. No hiding. Just walked off. Like the whole thing had been enough for him. I didn't take the same route back. There was no way I could. Even the idea of retracing those steps felt impossible. like the road would still be holding its breath, waiting. So I cut through backyards, hopped fences I had no business climbing, and stuck to side paths that were barely paths at all. Maxie stayed close, not pulling anymore, just moving with me like she understood something had changed. When I got to Mrs. Delaney's place, I did exactly what I always did. I unclipped Maxie's leash, patted her like nothing had happened, and took the money she left in the envelope near the door. I didn't pause, I didn't say a word, and when I got home, I didn't tell my parents. I should have, I know that. But I also knew what they'd do. They'd lock down every part of my life that mattered. No more solo runs, no more quiet stretches of road, no more feeling like I could be out in the world on my own terms. And I wasn't ready to give that up. I still think about him, about what kind of person does something like that. Was he someone from the area? A leftover from the cult they said used to live near those woods. Just some guy passing through who saw an opportunity and took it. I don't know, and that's the part that sticks with me. The not knowing. I never took Maxie that way again. Never even looked down that road after that day. But the memory's like a splinter. Just deep enough that I can't get it out, but sharp enough that I still feel it if I press the wrong way. I wouldn't call myself out of shape, but I've never been one of those people who lives for fitness either. For me, running started as a way to manage stress, something to clear my head after long days. Reed was the real runner between us. He was the kind of guy who didn't just work out, he lived for it. He got me into it, dragging me along for these night runs through Oak Ridge Hollow, our neighborhood. It became a routine, simple, repetitive kind of comforting. We'd lace up after dark, stick to the same loop, past the same quiet houses, same flickering street lamp at the end of Hawthorne Drive. There was something peaceful about it. The roads were lit well enough, and Oak Ridge Hollow wasn't exactly known for being dangerous. In fact, the biggest excitement we'd ever had was that one time someone's German Shepherd got loose and chased us halfway down the block. We laughed about that for weeks. Honestly, I used to find something almost therapeutic about those late-night jogs. Everything was calm, predictable, a rare kind of stillness that made me feel like the world wasn't pressing in on me for once. I never thought to question it, never thought that something could go wrong in a place like this. I mean, when you grow up somewhere that feels insulated from the rest of the world, it's easy to get lulled into thinking that nothing bad can happen, that you're somehow exempt. But I was wrong. We were both wrong. It's strange looking back now how safe I felt in that routine, how harmless it all seemed. Because the truth is, it only takes one night to flip that feeling on its head. One night when everything shifts. After a few weeks, the old route started to feel dull, predictable, like muscle memory had taken over and the run wasn't doing much for either of us anymore. Reed, being Reed, suggested we switch it up, add a few more miles, take a less straightforward path. And honestly, I was on board. I think part of me liked the idea of making it harder, giving us that edge again. So we started tweaking the route. First, we added this narrow trail that cut through a patch of woods behind my place. It wasn't paved, but it was well trodden. Kids used it during the day to cut across the neighborhood. At night, though, it had a different energy. The trees swallowed up most of the streetlights spillover, and even though it wasn't that long, the middle of that trail always felt just a little too quiet. Next came this offshoot road that ran in a big lazy curve back toward the main strip. It was one of those roads that was never busy, mostly bordered by overgrown lots and a few older houses that felt empty, not abandoned, just like the people inside had forgotten how to be noticed. Eventually, we pushed all the way out to the dirt road. That one was different. No streetlights, no sidewalk. Just this long, narrow stretch that led to bigger properties and farms on the outskirts. It always looked darker than it should have, even with a full moon out, but it made us feel like we were actually putting in the work, like we were doing something real. At the time, it didn't even register that we were trading safety for distance, that we were stretching ourselves right out of familiar ground. Looking back now, it's like we were daring something to notice us. That night started like any other. We eased into the trail behind my house. Same rhythm, same stretch of dark trees hemming us in on either side. I remember thinking the air felt heavier than usual, like the humidity wasn't quite right, but I chalked it up to the weather. Nothing really felt wrong, at least not yet. It wasn't until a few minutes in that I noticed it. Footsteps. Not mine, not Reid's. A third set. At first, I brushed it off. We weren't the only people who used that trail. It wasn't strange to cross paths with someone else, another runner, someone walking home, maybe even a dog walker. I figured they were just behind us, keeping a bit of distance, no big deal. But the longer we kept going, the more it started to eat at me. Because the footsteps weren't just there, they were synced with us. Every time Reid picked up the pace, the steps behind us did too. When we eased into a slower jog, so did they. It wasn't random, it was exact. Too exact. I started looking over my shoulder more often, trying to catch a glimpse. But the trail always looked the same, dim, narrow, empty. No flashlight, no reflective vest, nothing but shadows. Still, the sound was there. Crunching leaves, the occasional snap of a twig. Right behind us. I didn't say anything out loud. I didn't want to sound paranoid. And Reid didn't seem to notice. He was focused, in the zone. I told myself it was probably nothing, that it was just my mind playing tricks. But the thing is, I wasn't just hearing those steps, I was feeling them, like something invisible was just out of reach, pacing us through the dark. I don't even know why I stopped. Might have been a shoelace or a cramp, maybe just a quick breath. I can't really remember now. All I know is Reid had kept going, just a bit ahead, and for the first time that night, I was by myself on that trail. Just me, the dark, and that quiet that suddenly didn't feel quiet at all. And then they came back. The footsteps. Only this time, they weren't behind me, or at least they didn't feel behind me. They were somewhere to the side, in the trees, closer, heavy, like someone wasn't even trying to hide the sound anymore. It was that kind of noise that makes your ears go tight, like your body knows before your brain does that something's off. I turned, not fast, almost like I didn't want to draw attention to myself. That's when I caught it. Just for a second. A shape, not even a full one. More like a suggestion of a person, half swallowed by the tree line. Still, watching, no sound, no movement, just that sense that something was there, right there. And then Reid's voice cut through, calling back over his shoulder, asking if I was good. When I looked again, nothing. Just shadows and the soft sway of branches. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. What would I even say? Hey, I think someone might be lurking in the woods, but I'm not totally sure. I wasn't even sure I believed it myself. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, or my eyes playing games after too many late-night runs. But even as I picked up pace to catch up with Reid, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there, watching, waiting for me to be alone. I thought once we got out of the woods and back onto the open road, that feeling would fade, but it didn't. If anything, it got worse. The dirt road always had a strange vibe, even before that night. It stretched out forever. No lights, no fences, just a tunnel of trees and gravel stretching into nowhere. Usually I could tune it out, focus on the rhythm of my breath and footsteps. But that night, it felt different, heavier somehow, like the air had thickened, pressing down on us. We didn't talk much, just kept moving. The sound of our shoes kicking up dust, our breaths sharp in the stillness. Everything else was silent. No crickets, no wind, not even the usual distant hum of traffic from the highway. It was like the world had paused around us. We went maybe a mile in before Reid gestured to turn back. I was relieved, honestly. My legs were starting to feel sluggish, but it wasn't the kind of tired that comes from running. It was more like my body was reacting to something it couldn't explain. That's when I saw it. Off to the left, just past a break in the tree line. A shape, not rushing, not ducking away, just moving into the trees. Slowly, like it wanted to be seen but didn't care if we followed. I remember blinking hard, trying to decide if I'd actually seen it. Told Reid something moved over there. He barely looked, just gave me that half nod like, sure, man. Maybe he didn't want to feed it. Maybe I wouldn't have either. But it stuck with me. That movement, that shape, and the feeling that whatever it was, it wasn't in a hurry. It didn't need to hide. We were so close to the main road I could already see the faint glow of streetlights ahead. I remember thinking how quiet Red had gotten, both of us just focused on getting back. Maybe we were too caught up in our own heads to notice it sooner. But the sound behind us wasn't subtle. It wasn't a branch snapping or some raccoon darting through the underbrush. It was heavy, intentional, like someone wanted us to hear them now. We stopped, slowly turned around, and there he was, standing dead center on the dirt road, not moving, not looking at us, just standing. He had on this old, oversized hoodie, dark, heavy, and slouched, like it hadn't been washed in years. His pants were filthy, almost shredded in places, and the shoes didn't even look like they fit. The kind of clothes that look like they've been lived in too long, like they'd fused into the person wearing them. But it wasn't just how he looked, it was how he felt, like something had gone deeply wrong inside him, like whatever made him a person had cracked open and never quite closed again. I wanted to speak, say anything, but my throat locked up. My body felt like it didn't belong to me. And then he started laughing. It wasn't loud, it wasn't wild, it was cracked, ragged, like a sound that had been used up and dragged back out. Something about it felt so deeply, fundamentally off, like it didn't even belong in a human throat. When he finally turned to face us, it was worse. His face was pale, sickly in the moonlight. His eyes, I still don't know how to describe them. Not wild, not blank, just wrong. Like they weren't looking at us but through something else entirely. I don't know how long we stood there. It could have been seconds, could have been more, but I know that moment changed something in me. Because even now, I don't know if what I saw was real or if it was the first time I realized not everything that exists makes sense. We didn't plan it. We didn't need to. As soon as he looked at us, something primal kicked in. Reed and I just turned and ran. It wasn't one of those moments where you hesitate or look back, you just move. Fast. I don't remember my legs hurting. I don't remember being tired. I just remember the sound of our footsteps slamming into the dirt over and over, and the air feeling too thin, like it couldn't keep up with my lungs. I think I heard that laugh again behind us, echoing off the trees, or maybe I didn't. It's hard to say now. Sometimes I think I filled in the gaps with my own fear. By the time we reached my neighborhood, I was shaking. Reed looked just as pale as I felt, but neither of us said anything. Not a word. I threw up as soon as we got inside, then went around locking everything. The doors, the windows, even the side gate. I remember standing there with my hand on the garage button, just watching it lower and hoping I wasn't sealing something in with us. We just sat in the kitchen for a while, breathing, staring, not really making sense of anything. Every time one of us almost said something, we'd stop. What was there to say? I don't know what that was back there. I don't know if it was just a guy messing with us or something else entirely, but it wasn't right. And whatever the explanation is, I've never gone running out there again, haven't even walked that stretch of road since. And honestly, I don't think I ever will. I think the first time something really lodged itself in my brain, something that didn't feel right, even though I couldn't explain why, I was 9 years old. It wasn't dramatic. Nothing happened. Not really. But I can't stop replaying it now. That late afternoon blur. Golden sun cutting through the trees, the way gravel crunched under our feet. My cousin Leo and I had taken the dogs out, heading toward the bend where our street meets the main road. It was quiet, dead quiet. Actually, like it always was out there. Just open space and that hollow wind that never stops moving through the fields. Then I saw the SUV. It was big and white, idling near the curve, parked in a weird spot like halfway on the shoulder, angled like it had been waiting for something or someone. The windows were tinted but rolled down just enough that I saw him. Blonde, tall, sitting so still it almost didn't register. He was real at first. His arm hung out the side, casual like he was stretching. Then he moved, just this slow motion with his fingers, like a wave or a beckon, hard to tell. Leo didn't hesitate, took a few steps in his direction. No questions asked. I stopped him, pulled on his hoodie, told him we should go back through the neighbor's yard. I don't know what made me so sure, just something in my gut. It felt wrong. Off, like the air had shifted around us and I didn't even notice until I was standing in it. I told my aunt when we got back. She barely blinked, said maybe the guy was lost, needed directions. I wanted to believe that. I really did, but something in me held on to that moment like it mattered. And the older I get, the more I think maybe it did. I didn't witness it myself, but the way people talked about it afterward, it stuck. The way whispers stick to the walls even after everyone's left the room. I was 10 that Halloween, still young enough to dress up, still excited about free candy, but old enough to pick up on the stuff. Adults tried to downplay the strange tension they didn't have words for. It happened in Greystone Hollow. That's the neighborhood just past ours, the one with the big houses and tight lawns. The story came in bits and pieces, stitched together between conversations at the bus stop and muttered warnings from the parents. Someone had been creeping along the street that night, driving slow, too slow, no lights, black car, no plates, just lurking. They said a parent, someone's dad, tried to confront the driver, walked up probably thinking he'd scare him off. The car sped up instead, fast, real fast, didn't stop, nearly clipped the guy before disappearing into the night like it had never been there. After that, everything felt different. Halloween decorations didn't feel playful anymore. The air was colder, heavy. No one said anything directly, not really, but the grown-ups were suddenly a lot more watchful. Nobody let their kids go out alone the next few nights. Some didn't let them go out at all. And me, I kept circling back to something I hadn't thought about in a while. That white SUV, the man by the curve, the way he watched us. I didn't have anything solid, no proof, just a knot in my stomach that kept tightening the more I thought about it. It's probably nothing, I told myself. But that didn't stop the thought from growing roots. What if it wasn't nothing? What if it was the same guy? It was a weekday early evening, that weird in-between time when everything outside starts to dim, but the house hasn't caught up yet. No lights on, just that grayish-blue gloom pressing against the windows. I was alone. Mom was still at work, probably wouldn't be home for another hour or so. I was in the kitchen, half distracted, waiting for the microwave to beep when I heard the knock. It wasn't loud or rushed, just deliberate, like whoever it was didn't care if they startled someone. I remember freezing for a second. I don't know why, I mean people knock on doors all the time, but this didn't feel right. I went to the front window, stayed out of sight, and peeked through the side. There was a man standing there. Mid-30s, maybe older. It's hard to tell when you're a kid. He had on this utility vest, like the kind you see on city workers or meter readers. Said he was with the water company. Asked if the adults were home, if there were dogs in the yard, how often people came and went. He never stopped smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. I didn't open the door, just talked through the crack. Told him I couldn't help him. He didn't push, just nodded and walked off toward the street. Calm, like he had all the time in the world. When I told Mom later, she made a call, said they didn't have anyone scheduled in our area. No visits, no inspections, nothing. I couldn't see his face clearly, not through the window, not in that light, but his build, his hair, something about him felt familiar, too familiar. I kept wondering if it was the same guy from before, the SUV, the Halloween thing, or maybe I just wanted it to be the same person, so it would make some kind of sense. But what if it really was him? It was during summer break, right before I started high school. I remember because the days felt endless, but the nights somehow got heavier, like the quiet had weight to it. I was 13 and I'd promised to look after the Lane's dog while they were on vacation. Their place sat right near the edge of the neighborhood, just past where the road stops pretending to be suburban. Once you hit the tree line, it's nothing but brush and long, dark stretches of trees. I'd gotten lazy about the timing. That night, I didn't head over until after 10. I threw on flip-flops, left the porch light on, and jogged over. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that hums in your ears if you listen too hard. I let the dog out, made sure he had food and water, locked everything up. It didn't take long. But when I stepped outside again, I noticed something different. Across the yard, maybe 10 or 15 feet from the edge of the driveway, was a dark car. Black or dark blue, hard to tell in the dark. No headlights, no cabin light, nothing. just this silhouette tucked partially into the brush, like it didn't want to be seen. I hadn't seen it when I arrived. I was sure of that. The driveway was empty when I came in, and the lanes didn't have any friends coming by. No family in town. I stood there for a second, just staring. I couldn't see anyone inside, but the shape of the car, it felt wrong. Like it was tilted too deliberately, nose turned slightly inward, like someone had backed in just enough to watch without being noticed. I didn't take the street home. I cut through the woods, barefoot, branches scraping at my ankles. I didn't even think about snakes or thorns or anything else. I just didn't want to walk past that car again. It never came back, at least not that I saw. But I stopped taking that route altogether. Something about that night, it didn't feel like a coincidence. By the time I turned 15, I'd mostly convinced myself that everything before had been kid stuff, just overreactions. Maybe things I'd misunderstood. Memories get weird when you're young. They blur, stretch, fold into whatever mood you're in. I figured maybe I'd just let my imagination fill in the blanks too often. That's what I told myself. Anyway, then that car showed up again. It wasn't exactly the same, not at first glance. The SUV looked more worn now, scratched up around the rear, one of the brake lights dimmer than the other, like it had been through something. But the shape, the color, even the way it idled, it felt familiar, too familiar. The first time I saw it was near the field behind the school. I was walking alone, taking that shortcut I always used, and there it was, just sitting at the edge of the gravel, engine running. I didn't stop, didn't look directly at it, but I felt it, that same pit in the stomach feeling, like eyes pressing into the back of my neck. I started seeing it more after that. Once in the lot behind the gym, once parked crooked along the curb near the track, where no one usually parked. Always with the engine running, never moving, just there. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was a teacher, a parent waiting on someone, or just some random guy with nowhere to be. I wanted to believe that. God, I really did. I even stopped mentioning it to anyone. I didn't want to be the paranoid one again, but it didn't feel random. Not then. Not with everything that had come before. It felt like something was circling back around, and I couldn't explain why, but I knew it wasn't over. The first few weeks of quarantine were a blur. Everyone stuck inside, the silence on the streets, the way the world felt thinner somehow, like a film stretched too tight. I needed a way out of it. I started running, just short routes at first, around Willow Creek's back roads where the trees leaned in close and the pavement always seemed damp, even on dry days. It felt good. For a while it helped. Just movement, breath, the dull rhythm of my feet on gravel. Then the SUV showed up again. It started with a glimpse off to the side, parked on the opposite shoulder. Same shape, same faded green, same dull hum of the engine, barely audible through the trees. I told myself it was coincidence. People parked out here all the time. Maybe someone just needed a break from their house like I did. But then it was there the next day, and the next, always a few hundred feet ahead or behind, always on the other side of the road. Never pulling away, never passing me, just coasting like it was mirroring my pace. After the fourth day, I changed the time I ran, early morning, then late evening. Didn't matter. It found me again, 10 days in a row, except once, and that was almost worse. That one day it wasn't there. I felt relief for a second, but then the next day it was back. Same spot, same speed. I didn't stop running, but I stopped feeling better afterward. I'd get home with my chest tight, heart racing, not from the run, from the knowing, from how wrong it was starting to feel. I wanted to explain it away, like always, but this time it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like a pattern, and patterns mean intent. That last run, yeah, that one stuck. I remember the air was thick that morning, not hot, but still, like something just waiting to break. I didn't want to run, not really, but something in me kept pushing, like if I skipped a day I'd be giving in. So I laced up and took a new turn, one of those loop roads at the edge of town where the houses get farther apart and everything feels unfinished. I told myself it was just to mix it up, but I think deep down I wanted to prove it wasn't real, that the pattern was all in my head. If I ran a different path and the car wasn't there, then maybe I could finally breathe again. But it was there. Not the SUV. Not this time. A black sedan idling at the dead end like it belonged. I slowed down, pretending to check my shoelace, trying to make it seem normal. But that's when I saw it. A shape underneath the car. Not a shadow. A person, crouched low, like they were waiting for something or someone. I didn't think, I just turned. And there at the top of the hill was the SUV. The same one. Dull green, beat up in the back, like it had followed me through time, just sitting there, waiting. I sprinted, thought maybe I could cut around. But the second I got close, the driver's door flung open. He was fast, faster than I expected. I didn't look straight at him, but I saw enough. The hair, the height, that same familiar shape. He shouted something. I couldn't make it out. My legs were moving before my brain caught up. I didn't stop until I was inside. Door locked, curtains drawn. And even now I keep asking myself, what would have happened if I'd hesitated? If I'd listened? I don't run anymore. I don't even walk that road. But I still check behind me.